The massive ships appeared in Earth's sky like dark clouds blocking out the sun. People all over the world stopped what they were doing and looked up. The alien vessels were so big that entire cities fell into shadow beneath them. Children pointed at the sky while their parents grabbed them close, fear spreading through every street and building. Admiral Zextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the blue and green planet below. His forearms crossed behind his back as he studied the world through the main viewing screen. The planet looked peaceful and weak. Small ships moved around it like tiny insects, clearly no match for the mighty Catherian Empire fleet. "Sir, we are receiving many communication signals from the planet," his communications officer reported. The young Catherian's voice shook slightly. Even though they had done this many times before, conquering a new world always brought excitement and fear. "Let them wait," Zextar said with a cold smile. His red eyes glowed in the dim light of the bridge. "Fear makes them weaker. The longer they wait, the more likely they are to surrender without a fight." The Catherian Empire had conquered 47 star systems using this same method. They would arrive with overwhelming force, demand surrender, and watch as entire civilizations fell to their knees. Most species gave up within hours. The smart ones surrendered in minutes. Captain Vorth, Zextar's second-in-command, walked over to stand beside him. "Admiral, our scans show their technology is very primitive. Their weapons could not even scratch our shields. Why do we wait?" Zextar turned to look at his captain. Vorth was young and eager for battle, but he did not understand the art of conquest. Because Captain, breaking their spirit is more important than breaking their ships. When they surrender out of fear, they stay broken. When we destroy them in battle, others might think they can fight us too. Down on Earth, President Sarah Chen sat in the Emergency Command Center deep beneath the White House. Screens showed the alien ships hanging in space like massive metal mountains. Military advisors spoke quickly around the room, their voices mixing together in urgent whispers. "Madam President, they have over 5,000 ships," General Morrison said, his face pale. "Our entire fleet is only 300 vessels. Even if we fought with everything we have, we would lose in minutes." President Chen nodded slowly. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Have they made any demands yet?" "No communication from them at all," Admiral Hayes replied. "They are just waiting." President Chen stood up and walked to the main screen showing the alien fleet. "Then we wait too. But get me Secretary Williams on the secure line. It is time to begin Operation Last Stand." Secretary Williams appeared on screen from a hidden location. Behind him, dozens of people worked at computer stations. "Madam President, all systems are ready. The deep space sensors show no additional enemy ships approaching. This appears to be their full fleet." "Good," President Chen said quietly. "How long do we need?" 72 hours minimum to complete all preparations. Then we better hope they give us that long." High above Earth, Admiral Zextar finally decided it was time. He walked to his command chair and pressed a button. "Open a channel to the planet." The main screen changed to show President Chen and several other humans in what looked like an underground room. Zextar was surprised by how calm they appeared. Most species were crying or begging by now. "I am Admiral Zextar of the Catherian Empire," he announced, his voice echoing through space to every communication device on Earth. "Your world now belongs to us. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Every government must step down. Every military must lay down their weapons. Every person must accept Catherian rule." President Chen stepped forward. "I am President Chen of the United Earth Council. We would like to discuss terms." Zextar laughed, a harsh sound that made his crew smile. "There are no terms. You surrender or we destroy every city on your planet. We have done this 47 times before. No species has ever refused our offer." "We understand your position," President Chen said calmly. "But we believe there might be benefits for both our peoples if we meet to discuss this properly. We propose a formal meeting on neutral ground." The bridge of Zextar's ship went quiet. Captain Vorth looked confused. The communications officer stopped working and stared at the screen. No species had ever asked for a meeting before. "You want to negotiate?" Zextar asked, genuinely surprised. We want to discuss mutual benefits, President Chen replied. We have built a space station just outside our asteroid belt. It would be perfect for diplomatic meetings. We could send representatives to meet with yours. Zextar found this amusing. These humans thought they could talk their way out of conquest. You believe you have something to offer the mighty Catherian Empire? We believe there are always opportunities for cooperation between advanced civilizations, President Chen said. Surely your empire values efficiency. Working together might be more beneficial than simple conquest. Captain Vorth whispered to his admiral, Sir, this is obviously a desperate attempt to buy time. Zextar nodded. Of course it is, Captain, but it might be entertaining to see what these primitives think they can offer us, and their space station could be useful as a forward base after we conquer them. Turning back to the screen, Zextar smiled coldly. Very well, humans. We will send a diplomatic team to your station, but know this. When your pathetic negotiations fail, we will show no mercy. Your surrender deadline remains unchanged. 72 hours. The transmission ended and President Chen turned to her advisors. Send the signal. Tell them the fish has taken the bait. Admiral Hayes looked worried. Madam President, are you sure about this? If our plan fails, we were going to die anyway, President Chen said firmly. At least this way, we have a chance. And Admiral, make sure our space station is ready for visitors. We want to make a good first impression. Above Earth, Admiral Zextar was already planning his diplomatic mission. He would bring a small fleet of his fastest ships and enjoy watching the humans beg for their lives. After that, the real conquest could begin. None of the Catherians noticed the tiny objects moving through space around them. Objects too small to register on their sensors, but perfectly designed to watch and record everything the Empire did. Admiral Zextar's diplomatic fleet moved through space toward the human meeting point. 50 of his finest ships surrounded his personal vessel, their weapons ready and shields raised. The Admiral expected some kind of primitive trick, but he was confident that his forces could handle anything these weak humans might try. Captain Vorth stood beside him on the bridge, watching the sensors. Admiral, we are approaching the coordinates they gave us. I am detecting a large structure ahead. The main screen lit up, showing the human space station. Zextar stopped walking and stared. The structure was much bigger than he had expected. It was not just large, it was elegant. Smooth metal surfaces curved in graceful lines, and lights moved across its hull in patterns that seemed almost alive. That is not primitive construction, Captain Vorth said quietly. Zextar frowned. Their intelligence report said humans barely had spaceflight technology. This station looks like it was built by an advanced civilization. Perhaps they received help from another species, suggested the communications officer. No, Zextar said slowly. Our scouts have watched this system for months. No other ships have come here. The humans built this themselves. The space station was shaped like a giant flower with 6 arms reaching out from a central hub. Each arm was the size of a small city. Docking bays opened along the sides, and smaller human ships moved in and out like busy workers. Everything moved with smooth efficiency that impressed even the Catherian crew. Incoming transmission from the station, the communications officer announced. A human woman appeared on screen. She was older, with kind eyes and a warm smile. Welcome to Harmony Station, Admiral Zextar. I am Director Sarah Kim. We have prepared Docking Bay 7 for your ship. Please follow the guide lights. The guide lights appeared as a gentle blue line leading to one of the larger docking bays. Zextar noticed that the bay was exactly the right size for his ship. The humans had known the exact dimensions of his vessel. How did they know the size of our ship? Captain Vorth whispered. A good question, Zextar replied. He was beginning to feel less confident about this meeting. As they docked, Zextar could see through the viewing ports that the station's interior was just as impressive as the outside. Clean corridors stretched away in all directions. Humans moved through them wearing uniforms that looked both practical and elegant. Everything was well organized and spotlessly clean. Admiral, Captain Vorth said, Should I bring a full security team? Zexatar thought about it. Bring 10 warriors, but tell them to keep their weapons lowered. Let's see what these humans have to say. The docking bay doors opened, and Zexatar stepped onto the human station. The artificial gravity felt exactly right, and the air was clean and fresh. A small group of humans waited to greet them. They wore formal blue uniforms and smiled politely. Director Kim stepped forward. Admiral Zextar, we are honored by your visit. Please follow me to the main conference room. As they walked through the station, Zextar looked around carefully. The corridors were wide and well lit. Art hung on the walls showing beautiful scenes from Earth and other worlds. The humans they passed looked calm and confident, not like a defeated people begging for mercy. Director Kim, Zextar said as they walked, this station is quite impressive for such a young species. Thank you, Admiral. We are proud of what we have built here. We believe that bringing different species together in peaceful discussion can solve many problems. They entered a large conference room with a round table in the center. Windows looked out into space, showing Earth in the distance and the Catherian fleet hanging nearby. Several humans were already seated at the table, including President Chen, who appeared on a large screen. Admiral Zextar, President Chen said from the screen, thank you for agreeing to this meeting. We hope it will be the beginning of a beneficial relationship between our peoples. Zextar sat down across from the humans. His 10 guards stood along the walls, their hands near their weapons, but not threatening. President Chen, let us speak plainly. You asked for this meeting to discuss cooperation. What exactly do you think you can offer the Catherian Empire? A human man in a military uniform leaned forward. Admiral, we have studied your empire's expansion across the galaxy. You are incredibly successful at conquest. But we noticed something interesting in your methods. Oh? Zextar was curious despite himself. You prefer planets that surrender quickly. Long battles are expensive and damage the worlds you want to control. You like efficiency. This is true, Zextar admitted. What is your point? President Chen smiled on the screen. Our point is that there might be more efficient ways to achieve your goals, ways that benefit both our peoples. Director Kim pressed a button, and the room's lights dimmed. A holographic display appeared above the table, showing a star map. We have been watching the galaxy for a long time, Admiral. We know about species that might be willing to join your empire peacefully if approached correctly. We know about resources that could be valuable to you. We know about threats that even your empire should be concerned about. Zextar looked at the star map. It showed detailed information about dozens of star systems, including some that his own scouts had not fully explored yet. How do you know all this? We are very good at gathering information, President Chen said. We could share this information with your empire in exchange for a beneficial arrangement. Captain Vorth, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. What kind of arrangement? A human woman with silver hair answered. Earth becomes a voluntary member of your empire. We keep our government and our way of life, but we provide intelligence and strategic advice. We help you expand more efficiently while avoiding unnecessary conflicts. Zextar laughed. You think you can negotiate with the Catherian Empire? You think we need your help? We think, Director Kim said calmly, that even the greatest empires can benefit from good advice. We also think that destroying useful allies is wasteful. The human military officer pressed another button. The holographic display changed to show what looked like weapon tests. Energy beams struck targets and seemed to bounce off invisible shields. Ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Strange waves of force crushed asteroids into dust. We have also been developing some interesting defensive technologies, the officer said casually. Nothing that could threaten your mighty fleet, of course, but perhaps useful for protecting important worlds in your empire. Zextar stared at the display. The weapons looked advanced, but he assumed they were fake demonstrations designed to impress him. Clever special effects, he said with a cold smile. Of course, President Chen agreed. We would be happy to demonstrate our defensive capabilities if you are interested. Perhaps a small test outside the station? That will not be necessary, Zextar said quickly. He did not want to encourage these humans to think their primitive weapons could actually work against Catherian technology. The meeting continued for several hours. The humans presented detailed plans for cooperation, shared intelligence about distant star systems, and discussed trade possibilities. They were calm, confident, and surprisingly well-informed about the galaxy. As the meeting ended, Zextar felt confused. These humans did not act like a conquered people. They acted like equals proposing a business partnership. It was almost insulting. "We will consider your proposals," he told them as he prepared to leave. "Of course," Director Kim said. "Take all the time you need. We will be here when you are ready to continue our discussions." As Zextar's ship left the station, Captain Vorth said what they were all thinking. "Admiral, something about this feels wrong. They are too confident, too prepared." Zextar nodded slowly. "Yes, Captain. But confidence means nothing against superior firepower. Tomorrow we will show them the true power of the Catherian Empire." Admiral Zextar sat in his private chambers aboard his flagship, staring at reports from the diplomatic meeting. Something bothered him about the humans, but he could not figure out what it was. They were too calm, too prepared, too confident for a species facing extinction. A soft chime announced that Captain Vorth was requesting entry. "Come," Zextar called out. Vorth entered and stood at attention. "Admiral, I have been thinking about our meeting with the humans." "As have I, Captain. What troubles you?" "Everything, sir. Their space station was too advanced. Their intelligence about the galaxy was too detailed. And their behavior." Vorth paused, searching for the right words. "They acted like they were in control of the situation." Zextar stood and walked to the large window showing Earth below. "I have conquered 47 worlds, Captain. I have seen every type of species reaction to our arrival: fear, anger, desperation, madness. But I have never seen confidence, not real confidence." "What do you think it means?" "I think," Zextar said slowly, "that these humans are either the greatest fools in the galaxy, or they know something we do not." On the bridge, the communications officer was monitoring Earth's transmissions. Most were what he expected: panic, fear, desperate attempts by governments to contact each other. But there were other signals too. Coded transmissions that his computers could not break. And strangely, many of these coded messages seemed to be going out to deep space, not to other locations on Earth. "Sir," the officer called to Captain Vorth when he returned to the bridge. "I am detecting unusual communication patterns from the planet." Vorth looked at the data. "What kind of patterns?" "Coded transmissions, sir. Very sophisticated. And they appear to be directed toward the outer system, not to other places on Earth." "Are they calling for help from another species?" "Unknown, sir. But our deep space sensors show no ships approaching the system." Captain Vorth frowned. "Keep monitoring those signals and expand our sensor sweeps. I want to know about every piece of space dust in this system." Meanwhile, on Earth, President Chen was in another emergency meeting. But unlike the panicked sessions from the day before, this meeting was calm and organized. Military commanders, scientists, and intelligence officers sat around the table reviewing final preparations. "Report from all sectors," President Chen requested. General Morrison spoke first. "All orbital platforms are in position and fully charged. The enemy fleet has no idea they exist." Admiral Hayes continued. "Deep space assets are ready. We have clear targeting solutions on their command ships." Dr. Elizabeth Reyes, the head of the Advanced Weapons Project, smiled slightly. "All quantum phase systems are online. Field generators are stable. We can maintain full defensive coverage for up to 6 hours of continuous bombardment." "And the trap itself?" President Chen asked. Secretary Williams answered from his hidden command center. "All components are in place and synchronized. We are ready to execute on your command." President Chen nodded. "Good. Now we just need them to commit their entire fleet to the attack." Back on the Catherian flagship, Admiral Zextar made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. He was tired of these mysterious humans and their strange confidence. It was time to remind them who was in charge. Captain Vorth, send a message to all fleet commanders. We will not wait for the surrender deadline. Tomorrow at dawn, Earth time, we will demonstrate our power with a full fleet attack on their orbital defenses. Sir, should we not keep some ships in reserve? No, Captain. I want every human to see the complete might of the Cytherian Empire. All 5,000 ships will participate in the attack. When they see their defenses destroyed in minutes, they will surrender immediately. Vorth felt uneasy, but followed orders. Yes, sir. I will send the commands now. The message went out to every ship in the Cytherian fleet. Captains and crew members who had been waiting for action finally received their orders. The attack would begin at 600 Earth time. All ships would advance in formation and destroy every human orbital platform, space station, and defensive position. On Earth, human monitoring stations detected the change in Cytherian fleet positions immediately. Ships that had been scattered around the planet were moving into attack formations. Energy signatures showed weapons charging and shields strengthening. They are taking the bait, General Morrison reported to President Chen. All enemy ships are moving into attack positions. Perfect, President Chen replied. Send the final warning to all our people. Operation Last Stand begins in 12 hours. Across Earth and throughout the solar system, humans made final preparations. Children were moved to deep shelters. Essential personnel took their positions at hidden command centers. And in the darkness of space, weapon systems that had taken decades to build quietly came online. The Cytherian Empire was about to learn that humans had been preparing for this day for much longer than anyone imagined. Admiral Zextar stood on his bridge as night fell over Earth. The planet looked peaceful and beautiful, its lights twinkling like stars. Tomorrow, those lights would go dark and another world would bow before the Empire. Admiral, the communications officer said, we are receiving a transmission from the planet. Put it on screen. President Chen appeared, looking tired but determined. Admiral Zextar, our sensors indicate your fleet is preparing to attack. We ask you to reconsider. There are things about this situation that you do not understand. Zextar smiled coldly. The only thing I need to understand is that you have refused to surrender. Tomorrow you will learn the price of defying the Cytherian Empire. Admiral, please listen carefully. We are not your enemies. We do not wish to fight you, but if you attack Earth, you will be making a terrible mistake. The only mistake, Zextar said, was yours when you thought you could negotiate with us. Your time is up, humans. At dawn, your resistance ends. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. All ships, final preparations. Tomorrow we finish this. What Admiral Zextar did not know was that every word of his conversation with President Chen had been broadcast across the galaxy. Hidden human communication relays had sent the message to dozens of star systems, including worlds that the Cytherian Empire had conquered. On those distant worlds, people looked up at their alien-controlled skies, and for the first time in years, they felt something they had almost forgotten: hope. The trap was set. The bait had been taken. Now all that remained was to see if the hunters had become the hunted. In the depths of space, ancient human defense systems that had waited patiently for decades began their final activation sequences. Earth's children were coming home to defend their birth world, and they were bringing gifts that would shock the galaxy. The Cytherian Empire was about to discover that some prey fight back. Dawn broke over Earth as Admiral Zextar's massive fleet moved into attack formation. 5,000 Cytherian warships arranged themselves in perfect lines, their weapons charged and ready. The Admiral stood on his bridge, watching with satisfaction, as his forces prepared to crush another primitive world. All ships report ready for attack, Captain Vorth announced. Weapons are charged, shields are up, and targeting systems are locked on human orbital platforms. Zextar smiled. This would be quick and easy, just like all the others. Begin the attack. Show these humans the price of defiance. The Cytherian fleet opened fire. Thousands of plasma beams and energy projectiles streaked through space toward Earth's orbital defenses. The first targets were obvious: small space stations, communications satellites, and what appeared to be primitive weapon platforms floating around the planet. The humans had prepared for this moment for 70 years. As the Catherian weapons struck their targets, something impossible happened. The energy beams simply passed through the human platforms without causing any damage. The structures flickered and became solid again, completely unharmed. "Sir," the weapons officer reported, his voice confused. "Our weapons are not hitting the targets. They appear to be passing right through them." Zextar stared at the main screen. "That is impossible. Check your targeting systems." "All systems are working perfectly, Admiral. The weapons are hitting the exact coordinates, but they are not causing damage." On Earth, President Chen watched from the deep command center as the first phase of their plan worked perfectly. "Phase shift fields are holding," Dr. Reyes reported. "The enemy weapons cannot touch anything protected by quantum displacement." "Good," President Chen replied. "Now show them what real weapons look like." What the Catherians thought were primitive, human defense platforms suddenly revealed their true nature. The small, harmless-looking structures began to change. Metal surfaces opened like flowers, revealing massive weapons that glowed with strange energy. "Admiral," Captain Vorth said urgently, "the human platforms are transforming. I am detecting massive energy buildups." Before Zextar could respond, the human weapons fired back. But these were not normal energy beams. Streams of pure gravitational force struck the Catherian ships, creating zones of impossible gravity that crushed hulls like paper. Other weapons fired what looked like small black holes that pulled enemy vessels apart at the atomic level. "Shields down to 60%, the tactical officer shouted. "Sir, these weapons are unlike anything in our databases." Zextar could not believe what he was seeing. "Impossible. No species has technology like this." But the surprises were just beginning. The space around Earth suddenly filled with ships that had not been there seconds before. Hundreds of human vessels appeared out of nowhere, their hulls shimmering as they dropped out of some kind of advanced stealth system. Captain Vorth stared at the tactical display. "Admiral, where did all these ships come from? Our sensors showed only a few hundred human vessels." "I do not know," Zextar admitted, his confidence cracking for the first time in decades. "But it does not matter. We still outnumber them 10-1. The human fleet did not attack immediately. Instead, they began moving in patterns that seemed impossible. Ships passed through solid asteroids as if they were empty space. Others disappeared and reappeared behind Catherian vessels, firing powerful weapons before vanishing again. Admiral Hayes commanded the human fleet from the bridge of the Earth Defense Force flagship. "All ships execute Operation Perseus. Show them what happens when they threaten Earth." The human ships moved like ghosts through space, using technology that the Catherians had never seen before. Phase shifting allowed them to become intangible, passing through enemy formations and striking from unexpected angles. Quantum tunneling let them appear instantly at any point in the battle. But the most shocking surprise was yet to come. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter began to move. What the Catherians had assumed was just space rock suddenly revealed itself as the largest hidden military installation in galactic history. Asteroids opened like giant mechanical flowers, exposing weapon systems the size of cities. "Sir," the communications officer said, his voice shaking, "we are receiving a transmission from the asteroid belt." On the main screen, a human admiral appeared. Behind him, massive weapons charged with energy that made the Catherian flagship's main guns look like toys. "This is Admiral Chen of the Asteroid Defense Network," the human said calmly. "You are trespassing in Earth space. Leave immediately or face the consequences." Zextar found his voice. You turned your entire asteroid belt into a weapon?" "Not just a weapon," Admiral Chen replied. "A fortress. We have been building this for 70 years, ever since we first detected your empire expanding toward our region of space." The truth began to dawn on Zextar. "You knew we were coming? We have been watching your expansion across the galaxy for decades. We studied every battle you fought, every species you conquered, every mistake your enemies made. We learned from all of them." President Chen's voice came over the communication channel. "Admiral Zextar, we tried to offer you a peaceful solution. We gave you every chance to avoid this battle. But your empire's arrogance made this outcome inevitable." The asteroid weapons fired. Beams of pure energy, each one more powerful than the main gun of a Catherian dreadnought, struck the Imperial fleet. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before exploded in brilliant flashes of light. "All ships, retreat," Zextar ordered, desperately. "Fall back to safe distance." But the human trap was complete. As the Catherian fleet tried to escape, more ships appeared from every direction. The humans had not just prepared defenses around Earth. They had filled the entire solar system with hidden bases, cloaked ships, and gravity weapons. Captain Vorth looked at the tactical display in horror. "Admiral, we are surrounded. The humans have ships coming from every vector." "How is this possible?" Zextar demanded. "Our intelligence said they were a primitive species," Dr. Reyes answered from Earth. "Your intelligence was exactly what we wanted you to see. We have been carefully controlling what information reached your scouts. Every report they sent back was designed to make you underestimate us." The battle, if it could even be called that, continued for 3 hours. The mighty Catherian Empire, conqueror of 47 worlds, was systematically destroyed by a species they had thought was helpless. Human weapons that manipulated space and time itself tore through Imperial defenses like they were made of paper. Gravity bombs crushed entire squadrons. Phase cannons fired shots that passed through shields and armor to explode inside enemy ships. And worst of all, the humans seemed to know exactly how Catherian technology worked, targeting weak points that should have been impossible to detect. "Sir," Captain Vorth said quietly, "we have lost 60% of the fleet. Our remaining ships are taking heavy damage." Zextar slumped in his command chair. In 3 hours, the greatest military force in the galaxy had been reduced to scattered survivors running for their lives. "How?" he whispered. "How did they know our weaknesses so perfectly?" The answer came from an unexpected source. On his personal communication channel, a voice spoke in perfect Catherian. "Because we have been studying your ships for 40 years, Admiral." Zextar looked at the small screen showing the source of the transmission. A human woman in a military uniform smiled at him. Behind her, he could see what looked like a Catherian ship being taken apart by human engineers. "Every time your empire conquered a world, Admiral, we were watching. Every time one of your ships was damaged in battle, we recovered the wreckage. We have been reverse engineering your technology since before you knew Earth existed." The terrible truth hit Zextar like a physical blow. You planned all of this." "From the very beginning," the human woman confirmed. "Welcome to Earth, Admiral. We hope you enjoy your stay." Admiral Zextar's flagship shook violently as another human gravity weapon struck its weakened shields. The bridge lights flickered, and several control stations exploded in showers of sparks. The proud admiral of the Catherian Empire sat in his command chair, watching his life's work crumble around him. "Sir, our main engines are failing," Captain Vorth reported, his voice barely steady. "Life support is down to backup power. We have lost contact with 70% of the fleet." Through the main viewing screen, Zextar could see the remains of his mighty armada. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds now drifted helplessly through space, their hulls torn open by weapons that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. Other vessels tried desperately to escape, only to be caught by human ships that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "we are receiving a transmission from Earth." President Chen appeared on the screen, but now she looked different. Gone was the desperate, pleading leader who had asked for negotiations. In her place stood a confident commander who had just won one of the greatest victories in galactic history. "Admiral Zextar," President Chen said calmly, "we are prepared to accept your surrender." Zextar laughed bitterly. "Surrender? The Catherian Empire does not surrender to primitive species." "Admiral," a new voice interrupted. Dr. Reyes appeared on another part of the screen. "Perhaps you should look at the tactical situation before making that decision." The main screen changed to show a complete view of the solar system. Red dots marked the scattered remains of the Catherian fleet. Blue dots showed human forces surrounding every escape route. Green dots indicated human bases and weapons platforms that had been hidden throughout the system. As you can see, Dr. Reyes continued, you have nowhere to run. Our quantum displacement fields prevent you from jumping to hyperspace. Our gravity wells trap your ships in normal space. And our phase weapons can strike you no matter how you try to hide. Captain Vorth studied the display with growing horror. Admiral, she is right. We are completely surrounded. Even if we could repair our engines, there is no way out of this system. Zextar felt something he had never experienced before, complete and total defeat. But his pride would not let him accept it. If we must die, we will take as many of you with us as possible. Admiral, President Chen said softly, look around you. Look at your crew. Are you really going to sacrifice their lives for your pride? For the first time, Zextar truly looked at his bridge crew. These were soldiers who had followed him faithfully through dozens of campaigns, young officers who had families waiting for them back home, veterans who had served the Empire with honor for decades. All of them were looking at him with fear and hope, waiting for him to make the decision that would determine whether they lived or died. Captain Vorth stepped closer to his admiral's chair. Sir, he said quietly, perhaps it is time to consider what is best for our people. Before Zextar could respond, another transmission came through. This one was from Admiral Chen of the Asteroid Defense Network. Admiral Zextar, you should know that your Empire's response fleet is not coming to rescue you. What do you mean? Zextar demanded. Admiral Chen smiled grimly. We sent messages to every world your Empire has conquered. We showed them recordings of this battle. We proved that the mighty Catherian Empire can be defeated. Right now, rebellion is spreading across 47 star systems. The words hit Zextar like a physical blow. You are lying, am I? Admiral Chen pressed a button and the screen filled with images from across the galaxy. On world after world, people were rising up against their Catherian overlords. Ships that had been hidden for years were emerging from secret bases. The Empire's local governors were calling desperately for help that would never come. Your Empire is collapsing, Admiral, President Chen said. The question is, do you want to be remembered as the leader who died uselessly, or as the one who saved his people's lives? Secretary Williams appeared on another part of the screen. Admiral, we are not unreasonable people. We do not want to destroy your crews, but we will not allow the Catherian Empire to continue its campaign of conquest. What are you proposing? Zextar asked, his voice barely a whisper. President Chen leaned forward. Complete surrender. Your fleet will lay down its weapons and submit to human custody. Your crews will be treated well and eventually return to their home worlds. But the Catherian Empire's expansion ends here and now. And if I refuse? Dr. Reyes answered coldly. Then in 1 hour, every Catherian ship in this system will be destroyed. We have weapons that can turn your vessels into quantum foam. Your crews will die instantly, but they will die. Zextar closed his eyes. In his mind, he could see the faces of the thousands of soldiers under his command, young Catherians who had joined the fleet seeking glory and adventure, experienced warriors who had served faithfully for decades, all of them depending on his decision. Admiral, Captain Vorth said softly, what are your orders? For a long moment, the bridge was silent except for the sound of failing systems and distant explosions. Then Zextar opened his eyes and looked at his loyal captain. Send a message to all remaining ships, he said slowly. All vessels are to power down weapons and submit to human authority. Captain Vorth nodded and turned to the communications station. You heard the Admiral. Send the surrender order to all ships. Sir, the communications officer said, what about the Empire? What about our oath to the Emperor? Zextar stood up from his command chair for the last time as a free Catherian. Admiral, the Empire we swore to serve no longer exists, Lieutenant. The Emperor sent us to conquer a weak species and claim an easy victory. Instead, we found the most dangerous enemy the galaxy has ever seen. Our duty now is to our crews. On Earth, President Chen watched as one by one, the surviving Catherian ships powered down their weapons and activated their surrender beacons. The greatest threat humanity had ever faced was finally over. Madam President, General Morrison said, all enemy vessels have surrendered. The solar system is secure. President Chen nodded, but she did not smile. Too many people had died today, both human and Catherian. Begin rescue operations immediately. I want medical teams on every damaged ship. These people are prisoners now, but they are still living beings who deserve our help. Admiral Hayes looked surprised. Madam President, after everything they have done. Admiral, President Chen interrupted. We did not fight this battle to become monsters. We fought it to protect innocent life. That includes the lives of our former enemies. She turned to face the main screen, which still showed Admiral Zextar on his damaged bridge. Admiral, human rescue teams are on their way to assist your wounded. We will treat your people with the same respect we would want for our own. Zextar stared at her in amazement. You would help us? After we came to destroy your world? Admiral, President Chen said quietly, the best way to defeat an enemy is to turn them into a friend. We hope that one day, our peoples can work together to build a better galaxy. As human rescue ships moved among the wreckage of the Catherian fleet, a new age began. The time of easy conquest was over. The galaxy had learned that some species would not go quietly into the dark, and somewhere in the depths of space, other empires that had been planning their own attacks on seemingly weak worlds received the message from Earth and began to reconsider their plans. The humans had not just won a battle, they had changed the course of galactic history forever. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, the galaxy was a very different place. Admiral Zextar stood on the observation deck of a human medical station, looking out at the stars through armored windows. His right arm was in a healing cast, and scars from the battle marked his face, but he was alive. Most importantly, so were 90% of his crews. Captain Vorth joined him at the window. The younger Catherian had adapted to captivity better than his admiral, spending his time learning about human culture and technology. The medical staff says you will be released to the general population tomorrow, sir. Zextar nodded. And then what, Captain? We are prisoners on a human station light years from home. The empire we served has collapsed. What purpose do we have now? Before Vorth could answer, a familiar voice spoke behind them. Perhaps I can help answer that question. They turned to see President Chen walking toward them, accompanied by 2 human guards and a tall Catherian female in formal robes. Zextar recognized her immediately and snapped to attention. Counselor Thyra, he said with surprise. I did not know you had survived the rebellions. Counselor Thyra smiled sadly. I survived because I was wise enough to listen when the humans offered us a better path forward. Admiral, I have come to offer you the same choice. President Chen gestured toward a nearby seating area. Please, let's sit down. We have much to discuss. As they settled into comfortable chairs, Counselor Thyra began to speak. Admiral, the Catherian Empire as we knew it is gone. 47 worlds have declared independence. The Emperor has fled to the Outer Rim with what remains of the Imperial fleet. But this does not mean our people must suffer. What do you mean? Zextar asked. President Chen leaned forward. Counselor Thyra has been working with us to establish a new government for the Catherian worlds, a democratic federation that will allow your people to choose their own leaders and their own destiny. The humans are helping us build something better than an empire, Thyra explained, a society based on cooperation instead of conquest. Many former imperial worlds have already joined the new federation. Zextar frowned. And you want me to support this federation? We want you to lead it, President Chen said simply. The former admiral stared at her in shock. What? Counselor Thyra smiled. Admiral, you are still respected by millions of Catherian military personnel scattered across the galaxy. Your word carries weight. If you publicly support the Federation and call for other Imperial forces to lay down their weapons, it could prevent years of civil war. You want me to betray everything I have ever believed in, Zextar said quietly. No, President Chen replied. We want you to save your people from destruction. The Emperor's remaining forces are planning a campaign of vengeance against the rebel worlds. Millions of Catherians will die in a war that cannot be won. But if you speak out, If you show them there is another way. Captain Vorth, who had been listening quietly, suddenly spoke up. Admiral, remember what you taught me about the art of conquest. You said that a wise leader knows when to fight and when to surrender. Perhaps it is time to surrender to hope instead of despair. Zexitar looked out at the stars again. In the distance, he could see human and Catherian ships working together to repair damage from the recent conflicts. Former enemies now labored, side by side, building something new from the ruins of the old empire. What would happen to the remaining Imperial forces? He asked finally. Those who surrender peacefully will be offered the same treatment you have received, President Chen explained. Medical care, retraining for civilian careers, and eventual repatriation to their chosen worlds. Those who continue to fight will be stopped, but we will always offer them the chance to surrender. And the Emperor? Counselor Thyra's expression darkened. Emperor Kithos has shown no interest in peace. He continues to demand absolute loyalty and threatens to destroy any world that refuses him. He has become a danger to his own people. The Federation government has put a bounty on his capture, President Chen added. Not for execution, but for trial. He will be given the chance to defend his actions before a jury of his own people. Zextar stood up and walked back to the window. Below, he could see the human rescue ships that had saved his crews from their burning vessels. The same humans he had come to destroy were now healing his wounded and treating his people with dignity. Admiral, President Chen said softly, I know this is not easy. You devoted your life to serving an empire that you believed was bringing order to the galaxy, but you have seen what that empire really was. You have seen the suffering it caused. I have also seen what happens when that empire is challenged, Zextar replied. You destroyed our fleet in hours. You turned our own conquered worlds against us. How do I know you will not do the same to the Federation when it suits your purposes? President Chen stood and joined him at the window. Because, Admiral, we never wanted to be conquerors. We only wanted to be left alone to live our lives in peace, but when threatened, we will defend ourselves and our allies with everything we have. She pointed to a group of mixed human and Catherian engineers working on a damaged ship. Look at them, Admiral. They are not conquerors and conquered. They are colleagues working toward a common goal. That is the future we are offering your people. Zextar watched the engineers for a long time. Finally, he turned to face President Chen and Counselor Thyra. If I agree to this, what would my role be in the Federation? Defense Minister, Thyra replied immediately. Your military experience would be invaluable in protecting the Federation worlds from pirates, raiders, and any remaining Imperial forces. You would be protecting instead of conquering, President Chen added, using your skills to defend the innocent rather than enslave them. Captain Vorth stepped forward. Admiral, remember what you said on the day we surrendered? You said our duty was to our people. This is how we fulfill that duty. Zextar looked at his loyal captain, then at the human president who had defeated him so completely, and finally at the Catherian counselor who represented a new hope for their species. Very well, he said finally. I will help you build this Federation. But I have conditions. Name them, President Chen said. First, any Catherian military personnel who wishes to leave the service and return to civilian life must be allowed to do so with full honors and benefits. Agreed. Second, the Federation military will be purely defensive. No expansion, no conquest, no forced annexation of unwilling worlds. Agreed. Third, if I ever believe that the Federation is becoming what the Empire was, I reserve the right to resign and speak out against it. President Chen smiled. Admiral, if the Federation ever becomes an empire, I hope you will do exactly that. We are counting on people like you to keep us honest. Zextar extended his hand in the human gesture he had learned during his captivity. President Chen shook it firmly. Then it is settled, the former admiral said. The Catherian Federation will rise from the ashes of the Empire, and perhaps someday the galaxy will know peace. 3 years later, Admiral Zexitar stood on the bridge of the Federation flagship. watching as his mixed human and Catherian crew worked together to escort a convoy of refugee ships to safety. Pirates had been threatening the outer colonies, but the Federation fleet had arrived in time to prevent a massacre. Admiral, his communications officer, reported, "The convoy commander is thanking us for our assistance. They want to know if there is anything they can do to repay us." Zextar smiled. "Tell them that protecting the innocent is its own reward, Lieutenant, and ask them to spread the word that the Federation stands ready to help any world that needs it." As the convoy jumped to hyperspace, safe from harm, Zextar reflected on how much his life had changed. He was still a military commander, but now he fought to protect instead of conquer. He still served a government, but one that answered to its people instead of ruling them. The humans had not just defeated the Catherian Empire, they had shown the galaxy a better way to live. And perhaps, Zextar thought as he watched the stars, that was the greatest victory of all. In the depths of space, other species watched and learned. The age of empires was ending. The age of cooperation had begun, and it had all started when one species refused to be conquered and chose instead to fight for a better galaxy for everyone.